I met a gypsy.
I see that with you. It's like you just enjoy what you're doing, and it's like, what's the point of when we spoke the other day? I was like, I don't know why we take holidays, because like you come back and everything's just where you left it, and then you just got to keep trudging through. So have you thought about, I guess, just that whole process of, I don't know, like, why is that why we are, in a way?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I enjoy it. I think that's the main thing as well. I think if you enjoy what you do, and there's certainly, like with everything, there's some things that aren't that enjoyable. But most of the stuff I just enjoy. I'm sort of always wanting to see what's happening and progressing. But I don't mind the odd small break, as you say. But then you come back and you've got to sort of catch up on a bunch of stuff anyway. But yeah, I can't sit around in the same place for too long and do nothing without starting to think or starting to creep back into opening and some of the technology we have today, which sort of is non-stop. So, but I'm not sure, what you do about that. But I enjoy it anyway. Yeah.
So to go back to the era, like that kind of 88, 89, like right before you kind of made the shift and like the career really started like heading in that direction, what was the Gold Coast like, and the scene for like racing dirt track and motocross and road racing? Like, what was the scene that you were involved in that kind of like made you think that you actually could go overseas and you could make a career of that? Because there's always like a tipping point, I guess, to where you go from like just enjoying the lifestyle that you're living to being like, man, if I do this and this, I could be MotoGP world champion. I could be, the guy that you see for yourself in the future.
Yeah, it's difficult to probably identify one thing, but the Gold Coast back in the 80s was pretty much just a coastal strip. So, and back in the 70s and 80s, motorcycles were a lot more, I guess. There was motorcycle market was a lot larger in Australia, is probably the easiest thing to say, across the board. So I think in the 70s, with per capita, Australia was one of the, and not really that's my time, but one of the largest per capita sales in the world. And so I think in the 70s, really, motorcycle racing in Australia took off with the likes of Stephen Gore, and I was a young guy racing dirt bikes and stuff around with all that. And then the 80s started a bit of road racing, and here in the Gold Coast had Surfers Paradise racetrack, which was just at Carrara, which is Emerald Lakes now, I think is out there. So, and I was living at Mermaid, so you could go out there and pay $20 a day to run around the racetrack, which is pretty damn good. Yeah. And then Lakeside. So basically, I just I fell into it. I had an RZ 350 that a friend of mine had tried a wheelie on and flipped it, and I didn't have any money to fix it. And a friend who had the Gold Coast Motorcycle Wreckers said that he would fix it if I did a race on it. So I thought that was a fair call. So I did a race on it, and I finished second to the Australian champion at the time. I think it was Terry Pavel, or I can't remember how do you pronounce his name. A good guy, and pretty much that guy, they came in a couple of weeks later. I was happy the bike was fixed and everything was good, didn't think much of it. And he said, Mick, what are you interested in doing, racing bikes or just sort of cruising around as you're doing? And I said, well, if you give me a hobby, And it went from there. He then organised a motorcycle through Donny Pask Motorcycles, which was here at Mermaid Beach at the time. And Suzuki Australia gave me a little 250 production bike. And wow. Things went from there, and then Yamaha started supporting me with production bikes, and then probably the biggest step was I went to Japan in '87 to do a Suzuka 8-hour thing. Yeah. And the bike we broke, I was with a guy, an Australian, Rod Cox, who was a very well-known guy, and I think was as quick, if not quicker than him there. And the Japanese sort of noticed me at the Suzuka 8-hour, even though the engine broke with him on it, and we didn't finish. But then they invited me back for some races after that. I finished third in the World Championship race. And Kevin McGee had won, and before Superbike, it was Formula TT Formula One or something like that it was called, and and then the '88 was the first year of World Superbike, and I did two rounds of those, and the 4 races I finished, I won 3 of them and crashed in the other one.
Wow.
So, and I think that was a catalyst, and that Barry Sheen, you were saying, Barry Sheen helped a little bit introduce me to a few people, and but we're winning those 3 races, and I think the Australian round, again, I had good bikes. Yamaha gave me factory. There wasn't such a thing as a factory superbike back then, but I had a factory superbike,
wow.
which helped.
Yeah.
But in at Oran Park in Sydney in '88, I qualified pole. I won both races, and I lapped, I think, the whole field up to about 3rd or 4th. So that was, and there was some of the, little did I know, Honda were actually at the races there, and then they come and seen me after the race. And then, so that was really probably the springboard that then was like, okay, well, which way am I going, and who am I going to ride for, and whatever else. And I ended up going for, Yamaha wanted me to spearhead their Superbike challenge. I had an offer from Suzuki as well, to be Kevin Schwantz's teammate. And then, and I decided with Honda, one, because Gardner, I thought, Gardner was a few years older than me, so, I was a little bit naive. Okay, I'll go with that because they know I'll be the next guy. And also my father had a Honda shop when we were younger. Yeah. So I went down that path, but pretty much that was it. So I went from the start of 87 riding a 250cc production bike, the start of 89 on a 500cc Grand Prix bike. So I missed out a lot of that stuff in the middle, which is, other type of racing bikes and whatever else. But and you need to sort of work hard. The first 6 months on that 500 was pretty damn hard.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.